In this section, we'll take a look at the configuring and monitoring layer 2 bridging objective of the JNCIS Service Provider exam. We'll examine the basics of configuring switching and VLANs on an MX device. For more detailed coverage of this objective and more, please check out the Juniper Service Provider Switching course. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at some basic Ethernet switching and the implementation of VLANs on a Juniper MX device. And the Juniper MX device we're going to be configuring is inside this green box here. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be implementing some layer 2 switching for 3 customer devices, VR1, VR2 and VR3. So these are IP hosts that need to be able to speak to each other by using a layer 2 segment that we're going to be implementing with a bridge domain on our MX device here. So we're going to be using VLAN 100, this bridge domain here called cust1, interconnecting our 3 customer devices to allow them to be able to bridge traffic between each other on this network. So 172.22.1.0. And it should be worth noting here that these customer devices are actually implemented as logical systems within this router. However, for the purpose of this lab demonstration, just treat them as completely separate devices. They're only implemented as logical systems for simplicity of the lab build. And as well as providing interconnectivity between our customer devices, we want to be able to provide routing for these customer devices out to the greater network, out to the internet. And so we're going to do that by implementing a IRB interface and associating that with our bridge domain to provide this layer 2 to layer 3 interconnection and to allow these hosts to be able to route out to the internet. The internet we're going to actually implement as another logical system as VR4 on the same device. But for the purposes of demonstrating the concepts of IRB interfaces, this is absolutely fine. So we're going to be implementing layer 2 bridging for these hosts and then routing for these hosts out to the internet via an IRB interface. So let's start configuring our MX to implement the layer 2 configuration that we need to interconnect our customer devices. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to configure our bridge domain, binding the bridge domain name to a VLAN ID. And then we're going to need to associate this VLAN with the 3 interfaces facing into our customers. We're going to do this in 2 separate ways. For the first 2 interfaces, we're going to configure our interfaces as trunks. So they're going to be VLAN tagging towards our customers. For all interfaces, we're implementing family bridge because we're Ethernet switching. We're specifying interface mode trunk. And we're specifying a VLAN ID list of 1 VLAN of VLAN 100. We're doing the same for our second interface. For our third customer interface, we're going to implement this as an access port. So this interface is going to be sending traffic that isn't VLAN tagged towards our customer. Because we can only support 1 VLAN, we're specifying VLAN ID rather than VLAN ID list. So let's have a look at our configuration. And there we have our 3 customer ports configured and the bridge domain. So let's apply this configuration now. Do we have anything learnt in our MAC table? Yes, we do. So we have MAC entries learnt for all of our customer devices in our MAC table. Can we ping between our customer devices? So let's just have a look at the configuration of one of our customer devices. So we'll look at virtual router 1. So all of our devices are in this subnet. VR1 is .1, VR2 is .2, VR3 is .3. So let's see if we can ping VR2 and 3 from VR1. We can ping VR2 and we can ping VR3. So we have bridging going on between these three customer devices. Another useful command when you're interacting with bridges is clear bridge MAC table. This is just clearing all of the MAC addresses that we've associated with interfaces. So we can demonstrate this command now. We can run it. If we're quick, we can see that the MAC table is completely empty. We run the command again. We see that we are starting to relearn all our bindings again. And there we have all three MAC addresses learnt from our customer devices again. So we've got our layer 2 switching going on between our customer devices. Let's now provide layer 3 routing from our customer devices to the greater network, to the internet. And the internet is being provided by our VR4 router. So again, let's just have a look at our example customer devices. So we've got a static route pointing to this network that's simulating the internet to a next hop of this IP address. So we need to implement this IP address on our IRB interface. So let's do that now. And then we need to associate our IRB interface with our bridge domain. Which we've now got. So let's apply this configuration. So the first thing that having this IRB interface here means is that we are able to ping our customer devices from our switch because we have a IP address belonging to our switch in the layer 2 domain that we're interconnecting with our customers. So we can ping VR1, we can ping VR2, and we can ping VR3. And we can also take a look at the ARP entries associated with our IRB interface. And we see that we have ARP entries for the IP addresses belonging to VR1, VR2, and VR3 associated with our IRB interface. So the final thing to do is to see if we can ping out to the internet from our customer devices. Remember that our internet, our IP address is 172.22.2.2. Let's try it from customer device 1 and customer device 2 and customer device 3. Should go back to the network diagram to refresh your memory, just to show that we are pinging the right IP addresses. There, so we've just sourced pings from these customer devices, and we're pinging this 172.22.2.1 address, which means that we're bridging traffic to this device, and then we're routing traffic via the IRB interface out to this IP address. So this is a quick overview of some of the basic Ethernet switching and VLAN functionality on an MX device.